So we're very cautious. We've got sustainability, we've got experiments for them, and then we've got ways for them to kind of give back too. Of marketing. You've got billions of eyeballs following these missions now, and it's exciting. So it's first mover advantage.
Hey, it's Victoria Recaño, and welcome to The Trend. We are here with Chantelle Baier. She is the owner of the first female-owned company to ever land on the moon, for space. What is that like?
Well, it's definitely a lot of work, and you've got a lot of people that are really excited to join your journey. But at the same time, what does it mean? It's brand new, and you're paving the way for many more very interesting things to come.
How did this all happen? I know you're from Canada, and
Yes.
you had dreams of the moon as a young girl.
Yes.
What happened? What was the whole entire story like? How did it evolve?
Sure. So growing up on a farm up in Canada, I realized there's billions of stars, trillions of things to just look up at night. And where I grew up, there was no light pollution. So I didn't have any restrictions, just open, free land. And along with that, I dreamt a lot. And I dreamt of going to the moon one day. And I thought, what is the best path to go to the moon? And my mom actually said through geology. She said, you know what, you're going to always need somebody to touch the soil, no matter what robots we have. So that kind of started my thinking. But at the same time, she said, you know what, when we should be helping people here on Earth, why are we wasting so much money in space? And so that became a huge point for me to show her why space is important to us here on Earth. And so as I kind of went along my path, first I had to go through geology, and I had a wonderful mentor and just wonderful people around me. But at some point, I didn't really know if that was what I wanted to do anymore, because it was all men. And I kind of, we weren't embraced. Women weren't embraced at the time in that field. So I kind of pivoted a little bit to fashion. And
Fashion and space.
Right. Because I was always very creative. But where I grew up, you really couldn't even embrace arts. There was no paper that you could buy for art, for fashion and stuff like that at all, where I grew up. And so I moved to Toronto for a while, and a NASA internship popped up. And with that internship, it got my spark of space and fashion going again. And I realized that the fashion and entertainment industry has huge amount of budgets, huge funding. We raised $1 million in one night for the Sick Kids Foundation. And so I thought, well, this way we could maybe pipe money into the space industry, right? NASA budgets keep on getting cut. How can we kind of solve these problems? And, so this was like 20 years ago. And it was a huge opportunity for me, because now I was joining NASA and Mars exploration. I was always the youngest in every meeting, and I was learning from the best.
And the only woman.
And yes. And so in 2017 is when they told me to form up for space. Form up your company, because a lot of the red tape from NASA is going to lift. And they formed programs like the CLIPS, which is Commercial Lunar Payload Services. So now they want companies to start developing different things, and NASA will just buy it. It's a lot cheaper. And so my company works at this intersection where we say, okay, as we're developing the moon, how can we make it more Earth-like? How can we bring everything we do here on Earth to the moon? And that includes fashion, it includes music, it includes art. And that kind of shaped the way for our next, our very first mission, I guess, with the intuitive machines. They were going to the moon to test the safety parameters for when we send the first woman to the moon. And that was a part of what's called the Artemis program. And, so we knew this machine was going to the moon. We didn't want to actually harm the moon in any way. So it was going, it's a very important mission. What can we do to make it special? So we put a box on this moon, and it was the first clear box to ever contain artwork. And we built 125 sculptures with the artist Jeff Koons. So it was really cool.
How did you come to meet Jeff and get him on board this mission?
Oh, it was pretty incredible, because he was a really good friend of my investor. on the project. And so we met with him, and his entire office he had filled with moon. Everything was moon themed. He was testing materials, and he was so excited about this project because never before has he been presented a canvas like that. And it was very exciting.
Tell me about what happened when the art actually got there. What was the feeling like for you?
It was surreal. It starts off in Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, and everybody's there at night. It was about 1 a.m. when our launch was to take off. So we had this beautiful night sky, and I had brought in some teachers and students from Embry-Riddle and engineering. So there was a lot of energy going on around us. And when it took off, it was magic. And then everyone was cheering. And at some point they said, like, Chantelle, can you believe it? It's still going. And so we were like, oh my gosh, like it didn't blow up. We had no idea what was going to happen. Of course, we do a lot of testing to make sure, but at the end of the day, it's very challenging. So then after about 8 days, we were in suspense. The cube had to last 8 days on the outside of the lander. And we got beautiful photos. We knew those photos were important for the world to see, that this is actually happening. And when it landed, the lunar lander actually crashed. It broke a leg and it tipped over. But on the moon, the gravity's different. So it didn't just smash down hard. It actually just lightly tipped over, and it brought our artwork as close to the surface of the moon as possible. So it actually worked for us because we were able to capture the image of our sculptures near the moon, and they'll be there forever. There's no atmosphere on the moon. So we've already tested for all the radiation. So this and Jeff Koons said, this has to survive forever because I have friends that are traveling to the moon to take photos of the very first artwork on the moon.
That is amazing. It's incredible. Yes. And that was very lucky that it made the gentle landing.
Yes, we weren't sure if we were going to get photos from the moon because they had tipped over and their satellites were facing one way. And it took about 3 days, and then we were able to get a nice photo.
So what else are your plans for the moon and all the many amazing things that might be able to make a landing there?
Sure. So after that mission, we actually flew on a Blue Origin lunar gravity flight test. And on that mission, we tested paint and fluid dynamics. We tested De Beers diamonds. And we tested a few other things like some seeds for wildfire mitigation. And that was a really important mission because it had never happened before. And what happened was the rocket went up and the capsule ejected and did a spin. So we created what was a simulation of what the moon was like so that now we can test for our next moon mission. What are some paints and colors we can use? How will this survive? How will plants grow? So we're addressing a few different things. So from 2024, February, was when we landed on the moon. And then less than 12 months later, we did our lunar gravity flight. And then we rolled into our next contract, which is going to land on the moon again.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
It's still highly confidential, but I can say that it is another historical mission, and it is a beautiful lunar lander, and we're really focused on bringing culture to the forefront. So we want to really show the world what is possible and breaking boundaries in both fashion, music, art, and then also the charities around it. We really focused in on how can this really help the earth, and so we're really excited about that because we're looking at different ways to bring in organizations that are important to us.
Now, all of these different things, what's the importance of these tests for all of these things individually? Because you've got art, you've got diamonds. Mm-hmm. Obviously we want to know, can life exist? But can you talk to me about the importance of all of this testing?
Yeah, sure. So we see all of these different pieces as a big part of the puzzle that will help us along the mission. So in order to do more missions on the moon, we need to also make sure that it helps us here on Earth and that it's a really great story that the public can understand. And we want everybody to be excited about it. We want to open this up to kids. We want to open it up So the importance of flying diamonds, for instance, to the moon will be to engage so that you can own a piece of a diamond that is also on the moon and connect to that, because I think that holds a dream and it shows hope. I don't come from a background of a billionaire family. I'm breaking the grounds and just following my heart and my dream. And I hope that can inspire many people. And so the science along the way helps support all of these things. So with our diamonds, we've got optical experiments so that we can test for different lenses that we'll need to search for life. And then we've also got different experiments where we're drilling for water, and then we're trying to captivate that and have brands that are beverage companies support those missions. So now you've got brands that are focused on beverages, but they're also going to help us with exploring on the moon. And so this is a really exciting time because this has never happened before. You've got your typical NASA contracts usually, and they're focused on very big things. But now we're kind of breaking it down, and it's fun to talk about this in Hollywood. So ForSpace is based in Hollywood for this reason, because we've got all the beautiful fashion, we've got movies, we've got, entertainment, and that's what this is about. There's a whole new dynamic when you're talking about the moon. Like, what does a runway show look like with fashion that could be on the moon and tied to that? What is magical about that? And when you give it to an artist, it's just incredible when you just say, like, here, play. And these are some of the things. So you find out a lot of things, and it actually these combinations push the parameters of what we're developing even further. So your experience brings to the table something very valuable that NASA doesn't typically look at.
And they're looking at it now because of you.
Yep.
How does that make you feel?
Very honored, and I am just still very humble because we've got a lot of work to do still. I know that it's been over 20 years of pushing these boundaries, and it's never been done before, but now it's coming at the forefront. People are accepting it. It's inspiring a lot of people. I've had a lot of big artists contact me since our first launch, and they're like, "Hey, I've got this idea, and I'm working at this studio," and so that's exciting, because if we can inspire more people and younger generations to really get involved, I think we can have a better world.
I would agree with that 100%. Yeah. And I would say that you're quite an inspiration, especially to young ladies and women that probably, had you ever dreamed that you'd be in this position?
No, I never dreamed of this part. I've always dreamt of the moon. I've always dreamt of something bigger, and always like, how can I help the world? And I think it's just kind of my path has led to this now.
What was the pivotal point for you on that path? What do you think it was that, you said geology was the start. That was the platform, the basis.
Yep.
But then what was a pivotal point?
I think along the way, a pivotal point was my mother pushing me. She was really strong, and she kind of helped me focus, because I felt I could do anything. And then also the world is so big, so you really don't know yet, but you have your passion. So she helped guide me, and she helped support me through the entire journey.
What was the advice that she gave you? What was the direction that she put you in?
Sure. So, for example, when I was in geology, she realized that I wasn't fully happy at some point. And so she nudged me and said, well, you've always dreamt of fashion. Why don't you go and try it? And that was something huge for me, because I had to leave my comfortable nest, and
you were out of the comfort zone and
completely
switching into something not really necessarily related.
Yes.
But you managed to make them related.
Yes. And going from a population of 1,500 people to millions, and then brought me to Los Angeles. Those were huge steps. So I really had to learn people. And also the networking is also a big factor in my path, is kind of pulling from advice from a lot of really brilliant people that I've managed to meet along the way.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Of all the people that you've met, is there one person that you would say was most inspirational to you?
Yes, I would have to say my mentor, Dr. Chris McKay.
And why?
So he is the scientist that got Elon Musk into space. and got him to develop SpaceX. So at the time, he said they were working on a science project, and Elon realized he was never going to get to Mars this slow. He realized the pace. And so it was Dr. Chris McKay that announced to me, you need to start your company because you're the only person that has the technical capabilities and the artistic. So he said, and he said Jeff Koons and the artist, that vertical is very much theirs. NASA is here. I'm the only one that kind of really bridges the gap.
How are you able to do it?
I think through my networks, through knowledge, through just pushing the boundaries and never being satisfied with the word no. I just always keep pushing.
You never, ever accept that.
Yeah.
I always say, don't accept no from the person that doesn't have the power to say yes. And it's a good thing to live by.
It is.
It's true.
It's true, yes.
So what would you say in all of your experiences thus far, what is the biggest hurdle for you? What is the biggest challenge that you have faced?
Sure. I think one of the big challenges is making sure that companies and people know that what we're doing is very much happening now. I think catching people up on, you've got Elon, you've got Jeff Bezos, and you have a lot of wonderful companies starting up right now. But to get the support that we need, it comes from big brands. It comes from the celebrity. Those are the things, the components that we need to show this is what's happening and why. So we've got our moon missions. And if we want to push the boundaries outside of NASA's technical world, we need to have brands on board. And we need to do it in a really fun way. So you've got companies like Prada that are now merging with Axiom Space to develop the NASA spacesuits. And, you've got, and who'd have thought of that, right? And then you've got to still push the boundary and shape it a little further. And so I think one of the exciting things is right now just telling the brands, like, this is a very sustainable project. We look at everything on the moon with sustainability as our forefront. In fact, I'm wearing a pin for the Astra Carta. And that's actually the King Charles III, his company that's based off of space sustainability. And so we met with the King in March in London at the Hampton Court Palace, and we presented him with a coin. And in that coin, we had some of our space-flown diamonds, and it said Astra Carta. It was their emblem. And what it shows to us and how it's important is space sustainability, because brands, they don't want to jump in if it's not. They don't want to be seen as putting junk on the moon. And so that's where we're kind of looking at this new shift in how do we pair science and experiments with like commercializing. How do we make money off of these missions? How do we tie it to what we're sending to the moon? And that's been the biggest challenge. Like, why would a company like Coca-Cola be interested in putting something on the moon? They don't want to be seen as junking it up, right? So we're very cautious. We've got sustainability, we've got experiments for them, and then we've got ways for them to kind of give back too. Because we see the moon as one of the next biggest branding and entertainment areas of marketing. You've got billions of eyeballs following these missions now, and it's exciting. So it's first mover advantage.
What do you think are the best ways for companies who are joining with you and to be a part of this to give back?
Oh, it's amazing. We've got a pipeline for charities now. And so we are going to be giving back through that.
And it's just beginning?
It is. So I'm like, should I announce it now? Or
Can you tell I'm really trying? I'm digging.
I'm like,
come on. Tell us more.
So I can say we've got our For Space, which is our for-profit, and then we have started For Earth, which will then give back to the Earth.
And are there multiple businesses and brands that are already in relationship with you to give back and to do this? Are you able to say some of the big ones?
We do have a whole list of big ones right now for our next mission. I can't talk about it yet, so you're going to have me back on the show.
That'll be fine. We'll do it. We know, and we know where to look for all the updates at ForSpace.
Thank you.
You have a daughter.
Yes.
Has she any interest at all in space?
It's interesting. She actually knows so much about this from all the materials and the art part about it, and she wants to do her writing and creative. Anything mom does, she kind of wants to stay away from right now, which is interesting because I said, this is you're so lucky. She's been sitting by me she got to meet Buzz Aldrin. She's gotten to meet some really fantastic people along the way since she's little. So it's just like breathing for her. She doesn't recognize a difference.
Well, and she gets to see you make history.
Yes.
How does she feel about that?
I think she's really excited about that. And she knows our next projects that we have, and she's kind of bragging to her friends and telling them what's happening too. So she hasn't signed any NDAs, so she's
so you're saying she can come on and spill the beans.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
She did that one time with my first Moon project when we signed with Jeff Koons. Everything was like tight. And she announced it to her class and told them everything that was happening. And she goes, well, Mom, no one's even going to believe me anyway.
And what what happened when it actually happened?
Oh, they were excited. And I actually invited their teachers to the launch too.
Really?
Yeah. I thought they have to see so they know she's not making up. Because I had some moms coming up to me and saying like, hey, I think your daughter has a problem telling some stories. And I was like, well, actually, I do. I have because 1 minute she's talking about fashion, the next the moon. And then they realize it ties together.
It all melds into one thing because the culture and then also the whole idea that you're really trying to bring eyeballs and awareness to what's happening and all these advancements. It's incredible.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
An inspiration, I'm sure, for many people.
Yes.
What advice do you give to young ladies and anyone actually who might have a dream to do something along the lines of what you've done, because it's really unusual?
Mm-hmm. I think now is the best time to really open up your imagination, and with all the tools that we have with networking and contacting, you can contact NASA now, no problem. When I was younger, it was impossible. It was very, very difficult, especially being in Canada and the middle of nowhere. We barely had the internet, just starting when I was in like grade 10, where we were. So the resources are there, and I'd say if you have a passion, just volunteer and be persistent. And I mean, I'm available. Call me, reach out. I've got so many diverse connections and networks that I can help. I love helping anybody. And,
good.
Yeah, just let me know.
So anybody can reach out.
Mm-hmm.
Email.
Yep.
Call.
Yep. Go ahead.
Now you're as open as NASA.
So,
well, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I know that we'll be checking in on ForSpace for all the latest. And so that might be the very new trend. Who knows? De Beers, diamonds. We could have anything on the moon, right, at this point.
Absolutely.
So anyway, well, thank you. Thanks for joining.
Oh, thank you so much.